Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video, we're replacing the factory radio on this 2007 Honda Accord. Now in this install, we're going to show you how to remove the OEM radio. We'll head to the bench, show you the new parts that we're going to use for the install, including the radio, dash kit, and wiring harness, and we'll come back here to get everything installed. Let's get started. The biggest issue you run into with this generation specifically is your heating and air controls are actually wired through the radio. In order to replace the actual radio properly, you'll need a kit that also provides new heating and air control knobs and switches and everything of the sort. There are alternatives that are significantly cheaper, and most of which are replacing this lower pocket with a dash kit, so you can put your radio down there or single or doubled in, although it's just really not a great solution, and that leaves a dead radio up above. Yes, it allows the heating and air controls to continue to function, but really in the end, it's just kind of half-assing the install. My recommendation, if it fits the bill, is to go with the kit that we're using today, which we'll show you once we get to the bench. First thing we need to do is pull this on out. Now there's a clip to be released back behind this, and it does call for a little flathead screwdriver to push that clip down. I'm using kind of an angled pick tool just to pull up. Okay, so we got that up there. Now everything should just pull forward. Okay, not too bad. Next, down below, we do need to get this up and out of the way, as this can allow this pocket to come on out because there's screws behind it as well. Now, depending on the age of your vehicle, this panel can be super brittle. I've seen these totally broken. Okay, depending on your trim, you may have heated seats. We do, so we're going to disconnect those harnesses. Next here, we're going to open up our not an ashtray, and we're going to work the insert out because there's two screws underneath it. There's going to be two screws down inside. Should allow this whole panel now to come on out. Two screws in front of the pocket. We got to remove those. It's really easy to lose these in the dash. Careful. It may be a little tight to get out past the gear shifter. I do like to use the shift lock override here. Open up this little panel, push in the button, pull that back, then you have a little more space. Wonderful design, Honda. Wonderful design. All right, from here, we have two security screws, and then we have three Phillips screws. We got to remove the top three Phillips come out first. Now there's two 8mm security screws that need to come out. They're pretty easy to get to, you can see them. Look like that. All right, so with the three screws up top removed and the two 8mm down below, there is a clip kind of right in the middle across this brace that needs to unclip, so you have to give it a little bit of force, but it should come on out. There we go. And then finally one in the center. There it goes. Now when we talk to pack, one thing to note before we fully remove this radio here is we're gonna put our fan speed to maximum. And they also recommended that we put our temperature right in the center. Now in the dual zone, it's about 72 degrees. If you have a single zone, just make sure the knob is right in the middle. And again, we're going to put our fan speed all the way to the top. We'll turn off the car and then disconnect the radio. Okay, there we are. Now, harnesses are always short on these Hondas, but what you want to do is disconnect everything. You may have some clips that are actually clipped in also to the radio. You can try to separate those to give you a little bit more harness length. After some time, we got everything disconnected here. Let's grab our factory radio. At this point of time, let's head to the bench, show the parts that we're going to need for the install. All right, so we're here at the bench. Now the parts that we're using in today's install, first and foremost, is the radio customer wants us to install. It's this JVC KW-M780BT. Now the kit that we've been talking about in order for us to replace the OEM radio entirely, which also features new heating and air controls, is by Pack Audio. Now this is the RPK4-HD 1101 for this specific generation Accord. It's a complete kit. It really includes everything that you'll need for basically any radio install for this 2003 to 2007 Accord. All right, so we got everything pulled apart here now. Now, of course, before you go into anything, always read thoroughly the instructions that are included with this kit. You have a 10-page instruction manual that'll be super handy. Now, in this kit, it includes quite a few bits and pieces. In the event your vents behind the radio leak, it may screw up your temperature sensors, and so they include this pad in order for you to help seal things up there. You have some doubled-in dash brackets here, some clips and screws. We have our main harness adapter. We have the adapter that connects your panel to the radio module that is, in this case, this shape, which is interesting. You have a USB flush mount that actually goes in this kit, but if your radio doesn't have a rear-facing USB, they do include a blink. Now, this kit does replace the lower pocket because once we install a doubled in, the OEM pocket doesn't open anymore. So they supply this to fill that space for you. We do have to swap over some hardware from our old pocket into this kit as well. Comes with 2 sets of knobs, depending if you have single zone heating and air controls or dual zone. Comes with a single DIN pocket. Let's say if you're doing a single DIN radio or a floating display radio with a single DIN chassis, they include a pocket that fits in there as well. If you have factory navigation, there's an extension plate that you'd have to use in order to fill and clip the upper dash bezel into place once the kit's installed. If you don't have navigation, you won't need this piece. And of course, finally, here we have our new dash bezel. Really nice heating and air controls. And again, we'll put the buttons in place as soon as we determine what buttons we need based on the instructions provided. First thing we need to do is start transferring over pieces to our kits here. We're going to do a little bit of kit assembly. Also, from our JVC receiver, we're going to grab our harness adapter and the harness adapter with our kit, and we're going to start matching things together. All right, so we're done with this pocket. Now, if you're using a single DIN, you keep these rear supports in place for the single DIN pocket that goes in this location. Because we're doing a traditional double DIN, we need to break these off. Now what we're going to do is get our brackets installed. It has provisions for 3 screws. And what I like to do is just kind of start them, just like that. And then I'll slide this just right underneath them, tighten them down. All right, so we have basically the bare bones of the dash kit assembled here. Now we're gonna wait to put in our heating and air control covers. We have dual climate controls, but we found a discrepancy within the instructions where in the instructions it shows the auto on the right-hand side and the dual on the left, but all the photos and feedback show the inverse. We actually called Pack, and Pack's like, well, we're not 100% sure either. So go ahead and get it installed and then determine whether the buttons go on the left or the right. So we'll show you that here in a moment once we get that sorted out. Next here, what we're going to do is start preparing our harness. Now this is the harness that came with our Pack kit. This is our JVC specific harness. And for the most part, it's going to be color for color. Now, oftentimes manufacturers do switch up colors, so verify the function of each manufacturer that you're connecting function for function, not just solely color for color. Now, because we are soldering, we have our heat shrink. We're going to preload our harness with that heat shrink before we solder up those connections. In the event you don't know how to solder, as mentioned before, we recommend that you either use butt connectors or even better, crimp caps. Just don't use wire nuts or twist and tape. It's just not designed for an automotive application. Okay, so after soldering up our connections here, in this case it was almost 100% color for color. Fortunately for us, on this JVC receiver, we just grounded our parking brake wire. Although this kit does provide one, we just grounded it here. If you want to hook it up the proper way, you can go to this green wire. We also added an extra ground off as well for cameras that we're adding. Additionally, we added an extra pigtail off, an accessory wire in case we want to power a camera. And then solid blue on this harness is an amp turn on, where blue white on the radio is amp turn on. We also added a pigtail off in case we had an external aftermarket amplifier down the road. Everything else is color for color. There are a couple of other connections we didn't make. Now, the purple white on this navigation output end, this one, unfortunately, our JVC doesn't have that wire pinned in the main harness. It's a little pigtail off the back of the receiver itself, so we'll have to make that connection manually once we install the radio. Now, finally, it does have this pack of wires. There's a white black and a pink black, and you will hook these up depending on if you have a different trim than we do. Looking in our instructions at our wiring diagram, white black is a navigation steering wheel control input, while pink black is a data input. What it does is provide the explanation of why those exist. Now, pink black wire here is for your data input. If you have the single zone HVAC controls, or heating and air controls, you'll have to go down to the kick panel on the driver's side. It's a 45-pin white connector located in the fuse above the fuse panel. It'll be necessary to remove the underdash panel if equipped. This is important in order for your heating air controls to work properly, and it'll also provide these navigation outputs. Now, the white-black wire is if you have the voice and the back button on the steering wheel regarding Bluetooth. That's often found in the navigation trim. Our steering wheel does not have the voice or back buttons on the steering wheel. We just have the basic steering wheel volume controls. So if you have these, you'll run the other wire, your steering wheel navigation input wire, which is the white with a black, to the passenger side kick panel and connect it into that 14-pin harness. And nice thing is it displays where these go, and if you want these in color, you just go to PAC's website. Now, in our case, we have the dual climate controls, so we don't need to worry about pink black because there's already data at the radio, so no need to run it manually. And we don't have the voice or back button, so we don't need to hook up the white black wire. This is why this exists. In our case, what we can do is just cut these off and we'll cap them because we're not going to need them at this point. Now, lastly here, before we loom this up, we did want to mention, because JVC and Kenwood are a little bit more unique in the way that they use steering wheel volume control inputs, they have a blue with a yellow stripe wire. They don't use the traditional 3.5 looking millimeter jack for steering wheel volume controls for your wired input. They don't use this, and so we've capped that off, and instead we're using the blue with the yellow stripe that's provided by our harness. Now, with our harness all assembled and taped and ready to go, this end goes into our module. This end goes into the car. This end goes to the radio. We have our backup camera trigger wire, as well as our parking brake wire. Now, again, we left that extra power and ground off for cameras and that remote turn on in case we had an amplifier down the road. So that's about it for this guy. We can set him off to the side. Now this will plug into this port here, and we'll cover these in just a moment, but what we want to talk about right now is programming of our steering wheel volume control. So again, going back to our instructions here, we need to set up the configuration for this interface to ensure that it works right with our JVC. So we found our JVC. So what we need to do is set those dip switches to the off position for the ones that we're not using. The number indicated here will be set to on. To the on position. On is up. So you can see there's an on indicator. What we're going to do, number 2 needs to be on. Just like that. All the other ones will be remaining off because it's for other radios. Lastly, here on this page, it talks about where those leaks for the air vents may be. And again, they provide a way for us to seal those up. Oftentimes it's right underneath this lip. The best way for you to determine if you have air leaks is go ahead and plug in the original radio, turn on your air, and feel, do you have any airflow that's not coming out of the vents? If so, use the included mat. You can cut this to the right shape and size. They give you plenty to seal that up. It's sticky on the back. You just peel off the back, stick it in place to seal up those vents. Finally here, before we reassemble this kit, it does indicate that we have to cut that center support. Not all of it, because we need the tab locations, but we'll have to cut those out. You can use a multi-tool, which we'll probably use in our case. On this next page of the instructions, it does talk about where everything connects. So we have this data harness that came with it. One end will plug into this port here. The other one actually plugs into the back of our dash kit. Our dash kit's here, goes right into that port. So if you have an upper display, let's say you have factory navigation and you have that upper display, that cable will plug into here where you unplugged it before. We don't have navigation, nothing will plug in here because we don't have an upper OEM display at all. So this won't be used. This harness here connects to our main radio harness. Depending if you have dual AC controls or single zone AC controls will determine which port you use. In our case, we have dual zone, so we'll take off this blue sticker, but we'll keep this one on because we don't have single zone. And remove all the sticky tape and stuff, everything on it as well. All right, so those are ready to go. Page 5 talks about the kit assembly, which we've done here. Now, I mentioned before, if you had factory navigation, you add this extra piece on top because it allows that place for everything to clip in for that upper bezel. We don't have factory nav. We won't need this piece, but if you did, it screws into the top and they provide 2 shorter screws that'll go into these locations that are machined, and basically it'll hold this in place, allowing the upper panel a place to clip in. When you're ready to go and you get everything plugged in, this walks through the heating and air control system setup. Now we have, in our case, we have a 4-door sedan and we have dual zone climate controls. We don't have hybrid, we don't have a navigation. So you go through 1 through 6 to determine which vehicle trim you have, because we're gonna set that up in the settings so our kit knows exactly what car it's being installed to. We'll use the fan up and fan down to change the current selection to match the factory vehicle. So we'll go to number 2 there, and then it shows us how to save and exit. So at this point in time, we're really done here at the bench. We got our lower pocket all assembled. We actually put our USB and HDMI flush mount in. This HDMI will go to the HDMI port on the radio just so we can make use of it since our radio has one. Why not? What we also did is we added a little glue on the back. We don't want them to pop out or come loose or anything like that. It is hot glue so we can remove it. It's not 100% permanent, but it'll keep things nice and snug. So really at this point in time, we're going to grab everything here at the bench. We're going to head now back to the car to start our assembly process. Alright, so we're ready to do final assembly. We went ahead and added some of that 3M tape to block some of those air leaks. We just turned on the air, we felt it right down here. So we sealed those up, no more air leaks there. Then we zip tied in this module here. We just grabbed the old mount locations and we added zip ties and mounted the bottom of it here. And then zip tied the harness in. So really it's nice and snug. It's not going to rattle around or anything like that. And now this end connects into the back of our new heating and air control panel, and we got our harness plugged in. So now we can go ahead and do some initial boot up and testing. Finish making our final connections here. Our mic, we have a GPS antenna on this specific receiver. All right, now it's probably a very smart idea. Let's test to make sure everything's working before we snap it into place. Let's do a final test here. Looks good. Everything's working great. This is a fantastic radio. Dash kit turned out great. Love the access to these ports here. And in the end, it looks OEM. When it boils down to it, we don't have a dead radio. We love it. Now, remember, we'll link all the parts that we used in the description in the event you want to replicate this at home or something close to it. At the same time, if you want to see how we did a backup camera, we'll link that video also in the description that walks you through step-by-step how to integrate a camera to your new aftermarket radio. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to hit the like button if you liked what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time, and we'll see you in the next video.